as the caliper. And I think if I show you this, you guys are going to kind of have an idea of what to do for a brake pad change ultimately. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to unplug this electric parking brake. You might put on the parking brake to jack up the car. So what you have to do is pretty much turn on your ignition, and you have to engage the parking brake, you know, pull it up to release it. And that way, when you're trying to take off the calipers, you won't run into an issue with it being stuck to the rotor. Keep in mind, you may need something to pry this pad open when you're pulling off the rotor. So the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much unloosen this bolt. So if I just unloosen this bolt right here, it will put me in a position to where I can remove this caliper back so that I can change the pads. But if you want to remove the entire caliper, then you're going to remove this bolt as well as this bolt. So just to kind of show you those two bolts. So that's, and when you're removing the rotor, you're going to remove this screw, and that will remove this. And sometimes you may have to use a little force to get this off, but I'm going to show you guys. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. If you guys notice, as I'm turning this is turning too. So I'm going to need a wrench to hold this so while I'm going this way, I'm going to, you know, push the wrench this way. So just FYI, I use this to hold it while I turn it, because all of my wrenches were too thick for here. So I just kind of use this just so, you know, you guys may have thinner wrenches. You can see I'm removing the second bolt right here. Removing the second bolt. Like, in case you guys are, alright. In case you guys are not handy with sizes, this is the bit that I used. It's a half. All right, so I removed this one, and I removed this one. So now it's time to remove the caliper. This little wrench to pry this part open. And so once I pry it, as you can see, this part right here pretty much just comes up. I'm gonna have to use a little bit of force so I can do this with the camera, but I loosened this so this part comes up. As you can see, this goes this way and it opens up, and then that's when you're gonna be able to change the brake pads. I mean, as you can see from me taking out the bolts, you can actually change the brake pads like this too, but that's just more work. Why would you take off both of these to do the brakes when you can just roll that one back? But just FYI, you can. So at this point, like I said, if you wanted to remove the brake pads, you just simply do that. So once you do that, as you can see, the brake pads come right out. So when you get your new pad, you basically just want to basically just slide it right back in. So that's pretty much the gist of changing the brake pads. Like I said again, you don't have to take off this whole thing. The only reason I took off this other bolt is because I'm taking off the entire caliper. You just normally can just kind of retract it back like that. All right. By me removing these two bolts, it just basically lets me take off the inner part of the caliper, and that can enable you to change the brakes. But in order to take off the entire caliper, I forgot to mention this. You want to come back here. You want to come to this bolt right here. As you can see, that's connected to the caliper. Then it's another bolt right there. Now, you can't really, or it might be almost impossible to get to those bolts. It's not impossible, but it'd be difficult if you don't just remove those two screws. You know, it's each his own, but yeah, you want to remove this bolt and this bolt, and that should put you in a position to where you can successfully remove the caliper. All right. I know this is kind of stupid, but it turns this way, and it's hard as hell. You gotta break it. I had to get under the car, and as you can see, the caliper is pretty much coming out. Once I'm done loosening these two bolts, I'm gonna be free of the caliper. And at that point, I'm just going to unscrew this, remove the rotor. I think it's kind of self-explanatory from that point. You just go in reverse to put it back in. Hope this video helps. You know, I don't want to go through the trouble of putting it back in because I'm not doing it right now, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Just unscrew this. Then I'm going to unscrew the other bolt at the top, and that's going to remove the caliper. So before is how you do the brakes, and that's how you remove the caliper. As you can see, the caliper's pretty much already coming off. And then at that point, I'm going to loosen this with a torque. I remove that disc. You might have to hit this off. I put this bolt here for safety because you don't want to remove the caliper and then this disc fall out on you. So it's always good to just put one lug in there for safety. Peace.